Denied pay for several months. 12 Sri Lankans stranded in Dammam, Saudi Arabia. 15 maids break out of prison during the past 6 months. Government announces the new control price for 16 items. Verdict of the Bharat Lakshman homicide case to be delivered on the 8th of September. Voice Against Corruption criticizes the appointment of a 3-member committee to probe the coal scandal.
A very good evening to you. Watching Primetime News with me, Florin Rajendran.
A very good evening, Flo.
A very good evening.
A very good evening to all our viewers. Well, the Torch of Hope commences its journey across the island.
Highlights coming up later on in the bulletin.
But first, a look at our top story for this evening.
The control price of 16 consumer goods were announced today. The Gazette notification, which gives legal effect to the announcement, is expected to be released tonight.
The Ministry of Industry and Commerce released the new control prices in a communique today. Accordingly, chicken meat with skin will be priced at 410 rupees per kilogram, while chicken meat without skin will be priced at 495 rupees per kilogram. The control price of red dal will be 169 rupees per kilogram. The control price of Thai sprats will be 495 rupees per kilogram, while Dubai sprats will be priced at 410 rupees per kilogram. In addition, the control price of chickpeas will be 260 rupees per kilogram, and a kilogram of green gram will be 220 rupees. The control price of a regular 480 grams canned fish will be 140 rupees, while the 105 grams canned fish variant will be sold at 70 rupees. According to the ministry, the new control price of a kilogram of white sugar will be 95 rupees, while a kilogram of white flour will be priced at 87 rupees. The control price of imported full cream milk powder will stand at 810 rupees per kilogram, while domestic full cream milk powder is priced at 735 rupees per kilogram. While the control price of imported potatoes has been set at 120 rupees per kilogram, the government has not imposed a price on local potatoes. As mentioned by the government, the price of a kilogram of imported Bombay onions is 78 rupees per kilogram, while a kilogram of dried chilies will be sold at 385 rupees. The control price of dried fish katta is 1,100 rupees per kilogram, while the control price for dried fish salia will be priced at 425 rupees per kilogram. The new control price on a kilogram of Maldive fish is 1,500 rupees, while the price for sustagen is also 1,500 rupees. These prices will come into effect once the Gazette notification is released.
The Inter-University Students' Federation, as well as members of the university non-academic staff, engaged in several protests today.
A protest organized by the Inter-University Students' Federation commenced last evening from opposite the boat in Fort. This protest demands the closure of the private medical college in Malabar and called on the government to stop the oppression of students. The protest, which commenced last evening, concluded at 11 this morning.
Students have been engaged in Satyagraha campaigns opposite 6 separate medical faculties for more than 176 days. If the government assumes that they can arrest, imprison and suppress the students rather than to solve this issue, we will bring together all the forces and continue with this struggle until the Malabar Private Medical College, SITEM, is completely closed down.
The strike action launched by the non-academic staff of universities continued today as well. Non-academic staff attached to the University of Peradeniya demonstrated this morning. The main aim of the trade union action was to call on government authorities to add Rs 2,500 allowance that is currently enjoyed by the protesters to their basic salary. The protesters also cited several other issues for their trade union action, including the decision to do away with the language proficiency allowance.
There are around 13,000 non-academic staff at universities. These persons are restless. As university trade unions, we cannot turn this action back. We have received information that discussions have taken place with several trade unions in an effort to hamper our program. The situation at universities can be brought back to normalcy only after authorities stage discussions with us. If this demonstration does not bring about a result, we have decided to engage in continuous trade union action starting from the 27th.
Meanwhile, the non-academic staff of the University of Ruhuna demonstrated opposite the Karapitiya Medical Faculty today, citing several demands.
A protest was held opposite the Parliament roundabout demanding the National Audit Act be passed.
The Joint Trade Union Collective at the Auditor General's Department staged a protest during their lunch. They stated that because the Audit Act has not been passed in Parliament, it has paved the way for many financial frauds. We saw very clearly when there were observations put forward by the Audit Department, they tried to ridicule it by appointing a 3-member committee. At present, they are trying to do the same with the coal scam that has come to light. They say that such reports are produced by junior officials because of their ignorance. We cannot let this ridiculing continue.
මේ විකාරය කරන්නට තව දුරටත් ඉඩ දෙන්නට හැකියාව නැහැ. අපි
We compiled the International Audit Act to be on par with international standards. The Attorney General has endorsed it, saying it is correct. The legal draftsmen have also approved it. It has been 3 months since this document was handed over to the Cabinet of Ministers. However, the Cabinet of Ministers is not tabling this in Parliament, and they are making amendments to it.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party has taken steps to compile a special report regarding VAT, or the value-added tax.
As the SLFP, we held discussions on VAT based on the instructions of the President. The meeting was held at the Ministry of Disaster Management. The President instructed us to come up with a system through the VAT will not become a burden on the general public. Based on these discussions, we have come up with 4 proposals. One deals with the broad range of value-added tax, while another considered the increase in VAT from 11 to 15%. We also discussed the manner in which VAT would affect the prices of essential goods. Discussions were held on whether direct tax schemes should be introduced. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will be handing over an extensive report to the President on the 17th of this month. At present, we undertake the bunkering of fuel for ships. However, we only charge a sum of $100 annually as registration fees. We have proposed that we raise this value. Synthetic lubricants are being imported to the country with no taxes being imposed on them. We suggest that taxes be imposed on it. Due to the lack of taxes, synthetic lubricants are being imported on a large scale and is being released to the market. In this way, all our ministers have suggested ways in which we could increase our revenue without burdening the general public. These are humane policies of the SLFP. We can do this for the people because we remain with the government.
ජනතාවාදී වැඩපිළිවෙල අපි මේක ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුලේ ඉඳගෙන ඉන්න හින්දා
The Citizens Front and the National Movement for a Just Society convened a joint media briefing today.
පසුගිය කාලයේ මේ රටේ මහා පරිමාණ
If there were 10 people involved in the large-scale corruption that took place in the country, there are 100 people behind them. There are officers who supported them. A minister, a deputy minister or an MP alone is incapable of carrying out such frauds. If the official known as Taralage claims that they have not committed any wrong and they are simply acted on orders issued from above, then we will never be able to get rid of corruption in the country. There are laws in the establishment's code that these individuals are bound by. They cannot carry out any task apart from these tasks even if a minister or a senior minister says so.
පුළුවන් කමක්වත් නැහැ ඇමතිවරයෙක් හෝ උසස් කෙනෙක් කියපු පමණින්
ජීවන වියදම එක පැත්තකින් වැඩි වෙනකොට ආණ්ඩුව
When the cost of living in the country is increasing, you cannot be satisfied with the decisions the government is taking on behalf of the management of the economy. The expenditure of the government, the wastage must be curtailed. They vowed on the 8th that they will not have large-scale celebrations. They said they will not publish articles in newspapers. They said they will not erect cutouts and that they will not waste public funds for things like that. At present, we can see many of those things that they promised not to do is being done. We reiterate to the government that there is an economic burden on most of the people in the country. The government's economic management should be done sensitively.
ගැඹුරින් සංවේදීව සිදුවිය යුතුයි.
අපේ බරපතල විදියට අවධාරණය කරන කාරණයක් තමයි විශේෂ අධිකරණයක් අවශ්‍යයි කියන එක.
What we reiterate is the importance of a special judiciary. There are a number of people who have been arrested in connection to the Tajuddin murder. People like Anurasana Nayaka are in custody. However, the investigations are slow. There are individuals who are arrested in connection to money laundering. There are other groups arrested. they will be released. If you consider cases such as Avantgarde, the Divinagama fraud, silk cloth fraud, or any other case, the investigations are slow. Finish these cases immediately. That is why we ask for a special judiciary.
අහලා ඉවර කරන්න තමයි අපි මේ විශේෂ අධිකරණයක් ඉල්ලන්නේ.
A media briefing was convened at the Government Information Department today under the auspices of the Minister of Health, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne, to elaborate on the current status of the country's health sector. In the future, we will bring forth the blank packet of cigarettes where 80% of it will be covered. There would be nothing but the name of the brand. The Health Ministry is in the process of formulating the regulations of this. Moreover, I will be making a proposal to the Cabinet next week to impose a tax of 90% on cigarette companies. The tax imposed on cigarette companies during the previous government had dropped to nearly 67%. Now I have proposed to increase this tax from 72 to 90% and exempt all value-added taxes. The income that could be earned through this is more than that of the VAT income.
The minister also elaborated on the national drug policy.
Within about 2 months, I hope to bring about a program to reduce the prices of medicines. This must be gazetted in 2 months. We have already passed the deadline for this, so we are extremely frustrated at the moment. Now, what was the biggest racket that was in the operation in the recent past? There is no point in rambling on about some mafia. This Australian company always brought that drug here for $30. Now, what we did this time around was to somehow further register drugs. So how much is it now? It has dropped from $30 to $3. From this, we saved billions of rupees. All of you must remember that all hospitals are supplied medicines with no shortage whatsoever.
The nationwide initiative, the Torch of Hope, a rally which is aimed at encouraging Sri Lankan sportsmen and women who will represent the country at the 2016 Rio Olympics, was launched this morning.
The Torch of Hope rally is being held with the objective of extending the wishes of the general public from every district in the country to the athletes who will be competing at the Rio Olympics. The Ministry of Sports and the National Youth Services Council have also joined hands with the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited and Newsfirst in this endeavour. The official launch of the Torch of Hope rally commenced at the Independence Square with the participation of sportsmen and women who have brought glory to Sri Lanka. A group including Minister of Sports Dayasiri Jayasekara and Defence Secretary Karunasena Hettiarachchi were also in attendance at the occasion. First Secretary of the Brazilian Embassy in Sri Lanka as well as senior officials of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited were also present for the ceremony.
We are organizing this month-long program to wish our team of Sri Lankan athletes who will be leaving for Rio de Janeiro to compete in the Olympics the best of luck. Let us all wish that this rally, the Torch of Hope, which will be commencing its journey across the island today, will rally all Sri Lankans and come together as one and return to Colombo on the 5th of August.
I am obliged to talk about the contribution the Tri-Forces has made for sports in Sri Lanka. Many athletes have qualified to compete at the Olympics. On behalf of the Ministry of Defence, I will work towards extending my special wishes to the Tri-Forces athletes. I believe that the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited has undertaken such island-wide initiatives in the past as well. So I am confident that we can bring sports to the attention of the people of Sri Lanka once again through this program.
Whenever there is a certain task that has to be accomplished for the sake of the nation, the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited has always stepped up in undertaking that task. I would like to recall that the Sirasa Media Institution at the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited has always joined hands with us whenever the country is in need or whenever the country is enjoying success. We call on all Sri Lankans to join this motorcade and join Sirasa, extending your fullest support. While wholeheartedly extending our gratitude to the Sirasa Media Network for this endeavour, we especially wish our Sri Lankan athletes competing in the Olympics represent the country proudly and create a difference.
From among the athletes who will be representing Sri Lanka at the Olympics, javelin thrower Sumedha Wanasinghe, shuttler Niluka Karunaratne, swimmer Matthew Abesinghe and sports shooter Mangala Samarkon took part in the launch of the Torch of Hope rally. Among the other athletes who have qualified for the Olympics are marathon runner Anuradha Indrajit Kure, swimmer Kimiko Rahim, judoka Chamara Dharmawardana and weightlifter Sudesh Piris, who are currently training overseas, while marathon runner Niluka Rajasekara is training in Nuwara Eliya. Susantika Jayasinghe, who won silver at the 2000 Sydney Olympics, and Olympian Shriyani Kulawansa commenced the Torch of Hope rally. The rally, which will journey across the island carrying the Torch of Hope for 23 days starting today, is scheduled to return to Colombo on the 5th of August. The brass band of the Sri Lanka Army added colour to today's proceedings. The Torch of Hope, which reached Putlam today, is set to leave for Anuradhapura tomorrow.
As mentioned on our headlines, 15 maids have broken out of prison so far this year. This shocking revelation was made by the Department of Prisons earlier today.
Tushara Upuldeniya, media spokesperson of the Prisons Department, noted that among the escapees are inmates incarcerated for serious crimes. In addition, persons imprisoned for crimes related to drugs have also broken out of prison. The prison spokesperson said that operations have been launched together with the police in order to apprehend these escapees.
Now, following the announcement of the Dammam, the 100-day initiative, which aims to solve a plethora of problems faced by the public, donations have been pouring in from around the country. For more on the 100-day initiative, we are now joined by Newsfirst Shahin Jurampati, who is at the Dammam, the secretariat. Shahin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Joel. I'm currently standing by at possibly one of the most busiest locations of the Newsfirst headquarters since late. I'm at the Newsfirst Dammam, the secretariat, which is based at number 45/3 Braybrook Place, Colombo 2. Now, ever since the announcement of the launch of the Dammam, the 100-day initiative to resolve the issues which we identified during a months-long journey across the island under the Dammam, the door-to-door program, we have been receiving call after call from the general public, institutions, organizations to pledge their support, to extend a helping hand, to make a financial donation for the initiative, to make someone's life better, to make someone's dream come true, to help a village and eventually make this country better. Our Newsfirst team have been busy right throughout the day. So please extend a helping hand. Help out those in need, those who require a better life, those who have been neglected over time of welfare infrastructure development. You can make a change. Together, we can make this country great.
Do you remember when we came to your doorstep to inquire into your issues through the Dammam, the initiative? The time has now come for Newsfirst to join hands with the public to address the issues you face. We are ready. Are you?
The Dammam, the 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Join hands with us. Our hotline 0114 896 896. Email 100days@maharaja.lk. Address Dammam, the secretariat, Newsfirst, number 45/3 Braybrook Place, Colombo 2. Our webpage Newsfirst.lk and our Facebook page and Twitter handle. Make your financial contributions to make someone's dream come true. The initiation of the Dammam, the 100-day program. Make your contributions to the Dammam, the Secretariat Nations Trust bank account number 01100002201. The bank account number again 01100002201.
12 Sri Lankans have been left helpless in Dammam, Saudi Arabia after being denied their wages and dismissed from their places of employment. They reached out to Newsfirst and expressed their woes.
The group of Sri Lankans who had served in Dammam, Saudi Arabia claimed that they were denied pay since November last year. They say that despite keeping the Sri Lankan embassy in Saudi Arabia informed of this situation, they have not been provided with a solution. 12 Sri Lankans were employed in Saad Group company in Al-Khobar, Saudi Arabia. However, we have not been paid for almost 7 months since November last year. We are helpless, we have no money with us, and we are facing a serious issue. We cannot step onto the street because the police will arrest us. We have not received our wages. We have no medical facilities. We cannot go to the bank. We have faced many issues. The Sri Lankan mission has not taken any measure in this regard. Please direct the attention of the embassy towards this issue. Newsfirst contacted the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Manusha Nanakar in this regard. He noted that he would offer an explanation on the matter tomorrow. Upul Deshapriya, the Working Director of the Foreign Employment Bureau of Sri Lanka, expressed the following to Newsfirst. We have informed the Sri Lankan mission in Saudi Arabia of this complaint and to look into it. We also call on the families of these persons in Saudi Arabia to make a complaint to the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment. We will immediately intervene and provide a solution. If a complaint has been made and if there is a delay from the embassy, we will look into that and act on it.
And in news from courts this evening, the hearing of the case pertaining to the murder of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra concluded today. The case was taken up before a 3-judge bench and the verdict will be delivered on the 8th of September. The case filed against 13 defendants, including former parliamentarian Duminda Silva, over the murder of 4 persons, including the late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra, concluded today. The case was taken up before a 3-judge bench comprising of Justices Shiran Gunaratna, Padmini N. Ranwekar and NCBC Moraes at the Colombo High Court. Duminda Silva, who is one of the defendants, sought permission from court to travel overseas for medical treatment. However, the bench of justices turned down the request, citing that special reasons had not been put forward in this regard. The bench also announced that as the verdict will be announced on the 8th of September, written submissions can be made on behalf of all the defendants and the defense.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs Nisha Biswal and the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labour Tom Malinowski, who are currently on an official visit in Sri Lanka, toured the Eastern Province today.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Nisha Biswal and her delegation first visited the Koneshwaram Kovil in Trincomalee. She was welcomed by Governor of the Eastern Province, Austin Fernando. Nisha Biswal was accompanied by U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labour Tom Malinowski and Shortridge Affairs of the U.S. Embassy in Sri Lanka, Robert Hilton. The delegation thereafter took part in a special puja. Following their visit to the Koneshwaram Kovil, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State and her delegation attended a luncheon at Governor Austin Fernando's official residence, which was followed by a cordial discussion. Later in the afternoon, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Nisha Biswal arrived at the Eastern Province Provincial Council, where she was received by Chief Minister Hafiz Nazir Ahmad. Thereafter, she held a discussion with members of the Eastern Provincial Council. However, the media were not allowed to cover the discussion. Subsequent to the meeting, a media briefing was convened by Chief Minister Hafiz Nazir Ahmad to elaborate on the discussion that was held.
We have emphasized that the 13th Amendment fully implemented as soon as possible, and that you don't need any discussion to do that. And apart from that, if there is any constitutional reforms coming, that has to be done without any further delay. And when it comes to devolving power, there was always a delay in tactics adopted. So he emphasized that delay in tactics should not be there if there is a genuine process to take place, and the peace what we have achieved so far to sustain this devolving power is important and essential.
The Chief Minister also responded to questions raised by journalists as to why meetings with the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State were restricted to the media.
We did not have any secret discussions. We all represented all parties, all political party leaders and our ministers from TNA, UNP, UPFA and Muslim Congress, all were there. We just discussed very openly. There was nothing secret.
The Sri Lanka, Australia, New Zealand Business Council organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce took place this evening in Colombo. Raised by Bryce Hudson, the Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, and Seneca Silva, the Honorary Consul for New Zealand in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka is on the cusp of really significant economic opportunity. You've got a very strategic location, you've got a natural resource endowment, you've got an educated, industrious population, and very importantly, you've got a government that, despite what seems to be sometimes messy plurality of views expressed across the constituent parts of the National Unity Government. The government does seem genuinely to aspire to undertake the hard journey of economic reform, and it's taken some important steps already down that path. So this is a business community that's shown that it's looking for new ways and able to seize new ways to make the most not only of your traditional industries, but to search out new areas for growth, to tap into regional and global value chains, and to move up the value chain. And that's going to be very important for Sri Lanka. And it's critical in all of this that government and business, and where possible Labor, work together to seize these opportunities, to pursue the necessary structural and policy changes, and to confront the challenges head on.
Meanwhile, the People's Intellectual Assembly convened a media briefing today.
The Speaker or the Parliament cannot perform the task of the Supreme Court of inquiring the right or wrong of a case. We urge to stop the collision between the legislature and the judiciary. Govern the country in accordance with the Constitution. Most of us here stepped onto the streets on the 8th of January last year. Keep in mind that because of the pressure exerted on the judiciary and because of the actions against the Constitution, the then government was sent home 2 years after being elected. You must not follow that path. We send this message to the government. Please do not bring about another clash between the judiciary and the legislature. Let the law be in accordance with the Constitution. If not, call on the people to change the Constitution. When Udaya Gammanpilla was brought to Parliament from court, we were expecting him to make a statement. He entered the cafeteria and left. Those 225 persons always come for the food in the cafeteria. This is the situation in the country. They only think of the people until they get their votes. They said that Mahinda, Namal, Yoshita and the entire family committed theft. The entire family committed theft. If you are also doing the same, why was there a change?
The Anti-Corruption Front raises allegations that an unshameful attempt is underway to sweep the coal scam under the carpet in a manner reminiscent of the attempts undertaken to cover up the bond scam through a so-called three-member committee. The Anti-Corruption Front requests the Auditor General to inquire about the issue from the CEB in a backdrop where the Auditor General's query was not answered by them even after 4 months.
The Auditor General has asked the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy to provide an explanation as to how a loss of 1.8 billion rupees was incurred when purchasing coal. Considering a petition that was filed by a private company, the Supreme Court stated that the transaction has shocked the conscience of the court. With the allegations that are raised, the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy appointed a three-member committee comprising of Professor Lakshman R. Watavala, Professor Janaka B. Ekanayaka, headed by Professor K.K.Y.W. Pereira. After providing appointment letters to the committee members, the minister also held a discussion with the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Suren Bhattagoda. Bhattagoda is also a member in the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee that is involved in the transaction. Issuing a communique, the Anti-Corruption Front says that the appointment of a committee to look into this issue, even when the Supreme Court and the Auditor General's Department has pointed out the mistakes in the coal deal on 2 separate instances, is an attempt to cover up the incident. The Front says that the newly appointed committee will try to show that the Supreme Court and the Auditor General is wrong. They say that the appointment of a three-member committee to provide answers to the Superior Judiciary and the Auditor General's Department, which is a constitutional institute, is similar to wearing a loincloth to combat diarrhea. Meanwhile, Politburo member of the JVP and the convener of the Voice Against Corruption, Vasantha Samarasinghe, requested the Anti-Corruption Secretariat to commence an investigation into the alleged coal scam. This is a fraud that has been able to shock the conscience of the court. It is the job of the Cabinet and the CEB to enact the directions of the court. The minister and all officials who are involved in this transaction should be brought before the law and should be punished. The government has joined hands with the corrupt. Namal Rajapaksa is not in prison after spending his personal money.
For the full story, log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk.
Well, with that, we wrap up our primetime news here at News First. Signing off for the News First team, I'm Florine Rajendran.
And I'm Zola Atkun. Thank you for stopping by.